Hello folks, so this is continuation of Angular basic learning, and my previous video we learned how to use if condition ngIf inside the HTML, and also we learned how to use that defining the variable in Angular. If you didn't get a chance to go through, please I highly recommend go watch my previous videos about basic Angular, how to create this structure, how to install this tool, and how to create a basic HTML in Angular. This video we are going to learn how to use for. So basically, if you see here, we are gonna just do some the basic looping through this HTML tag. If you look at that, I just looped through three different home rent. It's like just kind of card, and you have image, you have a text. If you look at that, you see that a text, the state changing, and the dollar is changing. How did you do that? Through for loop. I did not create multiple images, I did not create multiple card manually. Instead I used the basic Angular ng for. Okay, let's learn. Let me revert that back, whatever the changes I made, so I can start from the scratch how we can use the ngIf. Okay, let's get started. Let me do refresh. Okay, now if you look at that, you see just a small one card I defined. Is very basic. If you don't know how to create this the card, please go through my previous videos. I explain how to create a div and how to add the classes for the CSS. Now let's learn how to use for loop. So first of all, what is syntax for for? The syntax for is, you can just say ng star ng for. This is going to be a syntax for for. But what is for? So for basically you have a list of the elements you want to loop through and see the result. Okay, let's say, let me define, for example, in this scenario I have a list of homes for advertisement. Let me create a list. But in real time, when you have a real enterprise level application, usually you take the data from database through some API, and API provides the list of the data. Now we are gonna use, we are specifically learn how to use for. So let me just create one sample array. I hope you know how to use array. Let me define array. Let's say I have a home for rent. I'm going to define an array. In the array, let's define one array, two probably, three, four. So I have four houses. I'm gonna add the advertisement. Let's learn how to use. Let's say let's introduce the variable. What are those? Probably I will say location. So this is the structure, and location name maybe Texas, and command next variable I can give as a rent. Rent, what's the rent value? Probably 1500, 200. Okay, so let me define next location. Chicago. The rent amount would be 4000, and let me define another location. Location is New York. Let me add rent is 5000. Okay, and one more, that's final one. Location is New Jersey, and rent is 4500. Okay, so now I just defined the list of places and respective rent. How do I now? If you look at that, you just see a simple card. I just want to let's say when the customer comes on the page, they would see list of available locations with rent, and image you can also give the parameter as image. But right now we are going to see how you can use the array for loop. Okay, now we define the array. Let's see how we can use for loop. Okay, so now let's go to the HTML. In HTML, you see this is the complete code for creating this card, kind of business card, or you can say card for rent, whatever. So now what I'm going to do is I want to loop through this card, so display multiple cards for each location with the rent. Okay, let's do how we can use the for loop. It's very simple. As I said, the syntax for loop is, you can say start ng for equal to now. So here's the variable you need to specify. So the syntax is let, and you can define a variable called rent of the array name. Okay, so now, so what would happen is, look at that, after I saved, you got multiple. What I'm trying to do is, so the home of our rent is the array. You got 1 2 3 4 location, and you are trying to assign. So basically it will loop through the angular loop through this whole, because this is the parent, correct? This is a parent div. Inside you is child div. You see that, so this you're trying to loop through the entire parent. That's why you given in parent. If you given inside, it will loop through only this one. The parent still remains same. That's why you have to make sure you given the ngFor in a right place, otherwise it won't work. So now we want to loop through the entire card, so I given ng star for let rent of home rent. So now it takes a one element, which means that the one parameter, and then it takes next. So now I have, since I have 1 2 3 4, I got 1 2 3 4 homes. Okay, now let's see how to use the value inside the array. Okay, now we got the image. Let's say now I need to use, how do we use it? Very simple again. So you already know how to use variables, correct? And in the one-way binding, if you don't know how to use one-way binding, please go through my previous videos how to use the one-way binding, two-way binding. Now we are going to use one-way binding, which means that we are just going to display data coming in. So now, as I said, here's the array, and you are going to take first element to the rent. And now let's see, rent is a one element. It's not, now the rent holds this particular tag, and next loop it will hold this one. So now I got the whole rent is storing this entire value. Now I need location and rent. Let's do that. Rent dot location, and I'll say another variable I'm going to define, rent dot rent. Basically rent dot location, rent dot rent, and let me put some dollar. Okay, now let me see how it, let's see how it reflects. Now look at that, you got it. So you got you the for it's trying to take the state or the location, and also printing this. So let me just remove the comma. Let me save. Look at that, now it looks pretty much good. So this way, this is really simple and straightforward. This way you can take the array, and you can loop through this element, and you can print the element. Let's say, assume that you want to print inside. If you want to have, let's say you want to have one card, but you want to print the values inside the card, then it needs to be inside. So the whole ngFor should be inside this class. So all based on your requirement. In this requirement, we want to have entire card to be displayed with the different cities and state. And one other thing you need to make sure, when you put have a ng, you cannot when you have one tag, you cannot have multiple angular syntax, which means that I cannot use ngIf here, so you'll get some error. So but this video we were more specifically looking for how we can use ngFor in Angular. I hope this will be helpful. And let me also show what are the component I have. So you got the variable, you got the record, and here's the CSS for this element. So I assigned the CSS as a div parent. I given the parent width height, and here's the second div class. I just given the text alignment and height width in the background. And here's the image. I given the image class here. So if you don't know how to define the CSS, please go through my previous videos to understand how you can define the CSS for the HTML element. It's very simple. I explained in a simple way. And if you want, let's say if you want to change the image, because if you look at the image, you see same image, but in real time you'll see different image for each house, right? So what you can do is, you can do this again simple. You can define another variable called image path, right? You can just define image path, and everywhere you can simply define, and you can use the image in your HTML tag. So now I got the image. So now how do I use the image? Very simple, the same formula. So now here you hard coded the image. So what you have to do is, you need to pass the image name. Let's say rent dot image path. That's it. Look at that. You don't see any value coming because you just given all the images is blank. So you need to specify the image name, and you can take like for this image I can provide the different image name. So you can provide the image name, it will take it. Let's, for example, let me redo. Let me copy this. Very simple. Let me paste here. Look at that. So you got one image here. You will save here, so that's why you got the result. So let me say rent dot image path, correct? Okay, so now you look at that, because you assign the value image for only one the location, remaining are blank, so that's why it shows blank remaining. But you can just provide whatever the image path you want to give, basically the path of the image. If you don't know how to use image, please go through my previous videos. I explain how to use image. I recommend you go through from the basic. If you are new to Angular, I started from the scratch, how to install Node.js and how to use the tool and everything. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned how to use for in Angular. This is really powerful one. If you like this video, please subscribe and watch my other videos and like the video. Thank you so much.